The tank shell has ignited a gas canister. Be careful of the gas cylinder, he says. It's going to blow up. They don't have much time, and 2 people are already dead. Whose wife is this, he asked. Come, let's get her out. Pull, pull. This video, obtained exclusively by Sky News, shows the immediate aftermath of an attack on an aid shelter in Gaza. 2 women were killed. 7 people were injured, including twin babies and 2 teenage girls whose faces were badly burned. All but 1 were from the same family. We've analysed troves of imagery, spoke to witnesses, and teamed up with weapons experts to study the blast damage and piece together how the incident unfolded. In response to our investigation, the Israeli military has now admitted that it did fire at a building where, it says, terror activity was occurring and that civilians were killed. And that could be a war crime, because it was clearly occupied by the international aid group Medecins Sans Frontiers, or MSF. It's in a sparsely populated area in Al-Mawasi in southern Gaza. More than 60 people, including aid workers and their families, were sheltering in the building when it was hit. We couldn't independently verify exactly where the projectile was fired from, but witnesses told us the tanks came from the south and drove up north. Damage on the building showed the shelter was hit on its southern side. Here we can see clearly that it went through a first-floor window. We put our findings to weapons analysts to understand what the damage can tell us about the attack. They said that whatever came through the window detonated as it hit the ceiling or exploded just below. The impact on the wall next to the window suggests it was blown outwards. One munitions expert said the damage is consistent with that of a tank shell. A collection of fragments was found in the room the projectile was fired into. Our analysts confirmed these are clearly fragments from the body of a high-caliber tank shell. One of the witnesses nearby when the attack happened said he saw a big light appear when the building was first hit and heard gunfire. Tanks driving by left a cloud of dust in their wake. MSF told us that Israeli authorities knew of the shelter's whereabouts.
We notified the GPS coordinates to the Israeli army to say this is a medical structure. Israel has reconfirmed that they had the coordinates of this building.
We put all those allegations to the IDF, who gave us this statement. During operational activity in Khan Yunis, the IDF forces fired at a building that was identified as a building where terror activity is occurring. After the incident, reports were received of the death of 2 uninvolved civilians in the area. The IDF regrets any harm to civilians and does everything in its power to operate in a precise and accurate manner in the combat field. The IDF has said they are conducting their own investigation into the incident. Legal experts have told us that hospitals and medical facilities have protections under international humanitarian law. They're presumed to be civilian objects unless there's a proven military objective.
There are a number of questions that are going to have to be asked. Did they, in fact, have a legitimate military objective? What was the intelligence that they had, if any, that this was being used for military purposes? If they didn't have that information, then it isn't a legitimate military objective. And then if they're intentionally targeting a civilian object, in particular, a civilian object that's being used by medical personnel, that is a violation of the Geneva Conventions and potentially a war crime.
MSF says it's committed to staying and continuing its work in Gaza. The shelter has been evacuated and staff have relocated. But if this building, known to the IDF, clearly marked and relatively isolated, wasn't safe, it's hard to think where else possibly could be. Tom Cheshire, Sky News.